Hi. So there's Ruby.
Hi, Lea. Nice to see you again. We briefly met at the Hong Kong Film Festival. Thank you for taking the time. I know it's almost midnight in New York.
Yes, no, I remember. Yes, so nice to see you again.
Hey,
Hi.
Lea. Nice to meet you. So Lea was the winner. Lea was the winner of the main prize of Hong Kong International Film Festival. I was in the jury, but that was not the only reason. All of us, the jury members, were very impressed and very touched by your movie. Thank you and thank you that you agree with our Q&A session today. We have our students. That's the first class today. So it's Ruby Young, Oscar winner. It's me, Uli. Yeah. So yeah, let's discuss.
Yes.
How are you?
Well, I'm good. I'm very good. I'm a little, how can you say, overwhelmed with the city. But you guys are used to big cities, so. But no, we are good. We had many beautiful screenings since we have been seeing each other last time. Yeah. And I'm very happy for a chance to speak to you guys. So just anything you wonder, please ask me. Oh,
Well, really, I know that your film is really well received by a lot of people, including the Oscar member. And I know that your film is being shortlisted and the voting is coming up in a few days. I wish you really the best of luck.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy because we just got the US distribution. So it will now be in the cinemas in the United States. So that's really, I'm very happy. It was hard work to get it to that point. So
maybe you can explain the whole idea from conception to now. It took you more than 10 years.
yes,
Follow one subject is a commitment, a big commitment for a filmmaker.
yes.
Can you explain that process?
Yes, I would love to. Well, as you say, it is a big commitment and even maybe a too big one to take on, really. So I don't know if I would even recommend such a long stretch of time to any fellow filmmakers. But for me, I was in film school and I got my very first assignment to do a short film. And I had this, I think I was a bit with this imposter syndrome because in my film school, so few people were accepted, 6 students every other year. And it was such a prestigious spot that I had taken on. So actually I was feeling that I was really kind of doubting if I was good enough. Do I have what it takes to be a filmmaker? Maybe now we're going to make our first film and everybody's going to find out that, they should have put someone else in this spot in my chair. So I was extremely ambitious. And I was so eager to prove myself in this very first assignment in film school. We had a structure in the film school where our films were like confident. So our first films, we were not allowed to share outside of the school. So it's like kind of a bit old-fashioned maybe. And someone told me that casting is 80%. So I said, okay, so if I want to make a good movie, I have to really be careful on the casting. And I think that really paid off because I was very thorough. I was putting out a casting call. It was a bit pretentious. I did like with posters from Godard movies and stuff like that. And I said, I'm looking for an incredible young female artist. Is it you for my film? And then I sent out these casting calls. I learned that from a friend in film school, and she always sent out posters whenever she was searching for like subjects. It's not a good word, but let's use it. And when she was sending out these things, always these interesting people responded with their secrets and with, so I was interested by this way of putting out a casting call. And then no one answered me to this casting call. And then I tried, the next best thing was to like poke people and say, oh, so this, could it be you? You know, I'm doing this film, you're this great actress or musician or something like this. So I did have an idea that it should be a young female artist, but I was really trying to be very thorough with the research. And so I met a lot of people and everybody said no, because I was too demanding. I said, because these young artists, they were saying, okay, so you want to portray my life and my art. Listen, I'm a young woman and it's too much, because I'm really forming who I am, both in my soul and in my work. And you want to be part of all of it. No, thank you. But then this young woman said, but you know what? I know a person I think you would suit each other. And then she referred me to Apolonia. And then we had these dogmas that I learned from Eva Mulvel, who was like my mentor. And she was, I was really like a sponge for film knowledge. So every time I met someone in the classroom, I would try to just pick their brains and get everything out of them. And she told me, oh no, but you have to divide. So, okay, you have 2 weeks to do this research. Then you say, okay, you spend, you go to your, to this person, and then, because I was panicking, I was saying, oh, now I got this great person, but I don't know what the film should be about. And then she said, no, but that's, you know, just set a timeline, tell her that you will take a couple of days, and then, you know, say that I will film a little bit, and then we can see if we match each other. And if we do want to proceed, then let's talk about what could the film be about. But just say, but it's okay, you don't know what it has to be about yet, but you'll find out. And so we did that. And I told Apolonia that I would film from the very beginning. I would be there, not talking without the camera. I said that, you know, I would be there filming from the very beginning. And I think it was kind of good, because it didn't put me in this position of all the time have to choosing whether I should be with a camera or with not. So we kind of got used to filming like from the beginning. But I mean, as time went on, that might be too exhausting also, right? But this was for a short film. And we didn't have many weeks. We had 3 weeks or something. And so I met Apolonia, and the footage made the film that we did this very first meeting. So it was so important in a way to, it was this, like first meetings are so great on film, like meeting each other. Anyway, so I went there and met Apolonia, and I was I really fell in cinema love with this person. And then we did the short film, and it turned out, I mean, nice, but it was very, I don't mind sharing it with you either, the short film, but, and it was, how can you say, it was a little, it was very controlled in a way, but it was nice, but it was more me making a film, a little bit more acting, you can say, than it was in this film, where I really tried to capture her and be more free with the documentary footage, like or try to be more, how can you say, leave room for what is actually there, rather than me trying to prove myself that I can really direct. And yeah, and so we did this short film, and this short film process was very good, because we built so much trust over that short film, that was really, we became friends, I think, by making that short film. and we had some difficulties also, and we overcame them. And so it was good to finish this process. And then when but my problem was that I could never really forget her. I felt that it was so hard, in a way, like a bit hard to do another film, because I was not, like, as a person or filmmaker, I was just not finished with this other story, this other person. I thought she had so many layers, and her environment was so interesting, and it mirrored my own questions in so many ways, and I was just so drawn to her. So then I thought, okay, then maybe, because we had a graduation film, so I was like, okay, maybe I should also do my graduation film on her. But then I went there to research, and actually I had some people who said to me, no, don't do it as a graduation film, because then it's you can do something else, and you have a film to start when you're out after film school. But that was not the reason why I didn't do it. I didn't do it because she had a boyfriend at that time, and we really didn't get along, me and and her boyfriend. So there was just no way. It didn't fit. He sincerely didn't like me, and I sincerely didn't like him. So the chemistry was it was just too bad. So I gave up on that. And then I returned home to do a film that had been in a box on the ceiling for a long time. Actually, I started film school to try and do a short film about my father. And I could tell the story, and I could intellectually describe how this would be a great film, but I had no expertise, and my craft was so underdeveloped that I couldn't make it. So I went to film school with this big box of tapes of a film I should do about my father. And I decided that there was no way that I could face going out of film school again and then having to sit looking at this box, trying to figure out how to do this film about my father. And so I decided that if I should do a graduation project, it should be that one on my father, because there would be maximum pressure, so I would probably finish it. So I did that. Then when I had a chance to go after film school, I got a grant to go to Paris. I was applying for a fund for the CBH Docs Film Festival. They do some kind of a scholarship where they put you up with another director. So it's like directing on blind date, completely crazy. And so I did that, and it got to be in Paris. So at that point I didn't have any money, but I had this grant. We went to Paris, and then I returned to Apolonia after the first day of shooting of this other film, saying, Apolonia, I would really, really like to do another film with you. Would you like to? And then she just said, yes, sure, of course. You know me, I'm a complete narcissist. And then she was in the film, and then she said, yeah, no, I started school. You want to see? And then she took me, and we went to the film school, and that footage is also in the film. So I really like this dynamic where she says, yes, come. And then she took it off. So that was really how the film came about, for those very steps. So it wasn't like I thought, oh, I'm gonna follow someone for 13 years. It was more that I was so drawn to her and this story. And in the beginning, I in my, how can you say, like in the toolbox of cinema, I didn't, like, how do you tell about like deep emotions in people, and how do you tell about what's really going on? I mean, it wasn't so easy, I thought. And so I did this where I was filming in the kind of variety, observational cinema. But in the final film, many of the things that I encountered, and like as a filmmaker, I chose to use those reflections and thoughts to take the audience into that like gaze of the filmmaker, to try to invite them to this like voyage. But for a long time in the editing room, I had two edits that were on the timeline. One I called the volcano, and the other was like the look, because there were two Apollonias. One was this one that's in the film, where she's looking and being very cinematic and very expressive in her features, and like she can really capture the lens. She's almost like an actress in this sense, that she's very performative, which also has like some limitations to the footage, but which is also a big part of her. So she has this look that you see in the beginning of the film. The other shot was a different Apollonia. It was just the volcano. I asked her, "Oh, could you say a little bit about yourself?" And I thought actually just for the sound test. But then she started talking like nonstop, 10 minutes, about her childhood and her mother, and then she got sick, and how like just this huge story that was already so extremely, there was so much. She was only 21, but this volcano of things she had already experienced. And I thought that how can such a young person know so many things and already have experienced so many things? So I was also very fascinated. But it was very strange to combine those two personalities in the film, because when she was speaking, she spoke in a very like gangster Danish, because she grew up in a specific place. So it was also like, I don't know, it was like really, because she has so many multiple languages to her and so on. So it was, yeah, so I had for a long time those two very first shootings on the timeline, and how to combine like the volcano and the look. And in many ways it would be the narration that then would tell her story. I put it into my narration to tell many of these things, also because it was easier to control, and well, it is sometimes when she told the stories, they were not, it was really the right themes and topics and so on, and she did it with such a great she did great the first time. I couldn't have her tell those stories again. It didn't work. It was never how we say, energetic in her voice. It was never, it was so hard. I tried like, I don't know, 13 times, that it didn't, she's very spontaneous. So at least I couldn't direct her to do it again. And so that also helped to choose, like, of course it would be my narration, because the other tools didn't work. Yes. Yeah. Do you have any questions to what I just said, or?
Yeah, I understand that you took a long time to edit because there's so much footage. Did you have a hard time stepping back because you're so involved in the filming, and then when's the narration come about, when you decide to use narration to piece the thread together?
Yeah. I think I didn't have that much material, considering actually that it was 13 years. Now I just met this film team from this Still movie, and they have like over 1,000 hours. I never had that much footage. But it was like, how can you say, before I decided to put myself in the film, it was it was very chaotic, because I got funding just as we got to the US. So there I became a professional piece. How can you say, I would have to have contracts, and I would have to promise to deliver films. So it was no longer just my own little project. And I promised that actually I would deliver in 16. But in 15, we went to Los Angeles, and I had kind of obtained the funding by telling about this trip, and now she finished, and I would search for an ending in Los Angeles. And when we got there, we thought, oh, but this is great. This guy is giving her money, because in Europe, it's also sometimes it can be very hard to make a living. So the artist is this kind of commodity, and everything is residencies, and it's great opportunities, but it's rare you have like a real salary also in painting. So when someone came and put like some real money on the table, it was kind of irresistible, because in Europe there was a lot of support, and there's no doubt that she should have not made this deal. But in her defense, no one else put any like money for the materials, for the paintings, and so on. And when we got there, we kind of thought in the beginning it was kind of good, until she met this, and this is very annoying, that I was with her like all the time. And then I took a break, because now, okay, now she finished and it was about to become the opening. So we said, yeah, let's take a day off. And we took a day off. And then next morning she calls me, and then everything had happened, you know. So the minute I was not there, she had this big revolution. She had this big discussion with an art critic, and I wasn't there to film it. So I was, what happened? It's okay. So everything kind of changed. Then I called her, and this is where she went to the beach, and I said, let's, we had a meeting 5 minutes after, but come, let's talk about it. What happened? And she told me that she had understood that what she was doing was really, really not good, because the guy from LA, he's someone who's speculating with money on art. So he he inflates an economical bubble of the prices of her work. And back then we were naive, because we thought that, okay, but the bad thing is that if he owns a lot of her paintings, then he can collapse her value. This is also true, but it was too simple. And there's another film now out called The Art of Making It, or The Art of Faking It. I don't remember. And he's in that film. So if you're interested, you can see more about the economy. But we didn't really know. So, but there's a lot of danger in it, and she's still facing that, because he now owns a lot of her works. He took all the works from Los Angeles, and he is sometimes also acquiring them through moles. So trying to get to buy her paintings without her knowing that it's him. And then he has a big stock of her, and he can inflate the prices so they will be so expensive. And then he has like maybe the 10 most rich people convinced that, okay, this is worth $1 million. He will sell them for $1 million. And what happens is that everybody else who owns a painting of hers will immediately send it to the auctions and say, oh my God, my painting is so much worth, let's sell it. And then of course it will not be the price, and then it will drop, and then she will be bankrupt. Right? What happened? Yeah, okay. I don't know, the lights went out, sorry. And then, so that was like a very dangerous thing. And this revelation, we kind of found out together. So I was in a bind, because I couldn't finish the film there. For human reasons, I was now in this film like so deep, because I was feeling that I really took a pledge with Apolonia. Also, what happened was that, to me as a filmmaker, when I was in Los Angeles, I saw this other guy, this Simkovic. And I didn't, of course, feel that I was like this, because, I'm a documentary filmmaker. I'm one of the good ones. But still, who am I in this industry? I'm also chasing her with the camera. I'm also like here, and she's doing this performance for me also. I also sold the film. So it was very challenging in a way, for me to find out like who am I in this, and what is my role and position. And I think what happened in this scene of the butt plug is that that there I actually decide that, okay, I'm no longer an observant. I'm no longer just someone who can stand on the outside and observe. I think there I took a side. Really, I was like, okay, I cannot stay neutral in this. I am like complicit either way. I'll choose Apple. And then I was saying, okay, I'm not going to finish this film now. I will deal with the investors and they will come around. I'm not going to say I'm not going to finish it right now, but we'll work it out, because soon there will be the real happy ending. But then I got pregnant, and then it was, I thought that, okay, I would have the baby and then I would come back and just finish the film and everything would be okay, because she would have had, everything would be resolved, and I wouldn't have to put out this, okay, so Apolonia as an artist, that is indeed trouble. That was kind of ethically not possible, because I also realized now that what I'm doing is, of course, has impact in the real world. So if I stop this moment of time for her, it could impact her career, because if it was too soon, maybe the film would have more say than her own art. And that would be a crime to really do that to a young artist. So I had to wait until, luckily, this moment came where she was not dependent on the film at all, because she had a beautiful career of her own. And yeah, so but then I had the baby and I got so sick, and of course that changed of course everything in my own life. It took one year before I could even, think of anything. And then it was also because what happened, I can share that with you, was that I got an infection that really got very aggressive after giving birth, and that was so, that like mutated into something like really horrible. And so I was very sick, and you feel it, of course. I put it into the film, but this decision of, I had an idea how to make the film if we were going for an ending kind of just after the Stefan Simkovic, but then my life changed also. And when your life changes, I guess your art also changes, so your film changes. And so I don't remember the exact time where we decided to put that in there, but what really happened was that really first chance I got where I was well enough, and I wasn't even well enough. It was really crazy that I did it, but I returned. I returned to her and tried to film, and I was really like still pretty much also very high on life, because for a year after I survived, I would, go crazy about every single detail of life. I would be just like, I don't know, I was someplace else than where I am now. And so I went there and I filmed as I could, and I went home with the material and I started to do the film, but I only had that one visit to her before Oksana died. So I never got to see Oksana again. And of course, that also changed everything, because I was alive and Oksana was not. And I just realized that what I experienced was, in a way, this life path of young artists, and how our lives are different, and destinies are different, and our, there's so many different aspects to this, and especially on the female artists. So I just had this deep feeling of, after that, I returned. It was very painful. I returned for the funeral. And so I just had this feeling that this was a part of history in a way that I experienced. And after that, it was, by adding our multiple personalities in the film, it was more than just a portrait of one artist. It got to be a more existential film about a female artist, like more universal, by intertwining our stories. So it came from this sensation, in a way, that I had of the destinies, and that's how we build it. And we had a sentence like you do in fiction film. We got the sentence that was like a working tool, that all creation takes sacrifice, and that was like, yeah. So we built it on that, and then I had to like wait again for a bit of a long time, because we then edited the film, but the loss of Oksana was so strong and devastating, and it was all time consuming for Apolonia in her working process. And when she was painting Oksana, it was so strong, but it was a little bit difficult, because then at this point, Apolonia really needed the film to end. And we agreed to end the film. She wrote me a text that was like, of course, she was very much in her grief, but she said that she really needed to learn how to be a private person. And I thought that was so beautiful, actually, of an ending. And I also deeply needed to live not behind a camera, but be present in my own life. So that was kind of beautiful, I thought. But from there, then we had to end. When we were ending the film, the relationship between us was a little bit more difficult, because that I'm a filmmaker and she's not. So ending, I needed a little more to build an ending. And also I knew, and that was something that I couldn't really tell her, because it sounds so cynical when you say it, was that if I ended the film just on this image of her painting Oksana and like all the emotion that was built up in the film, it would really be wrong towards Apolonia, because it would put Oksana like in the forefront in a way that was untrue to the film, because Oksana was Apollonia's very dear friend, and I learned so much from Oksana. Really, she changed my life in many ways. But in the film, by having a structure where that would be like close to an ending, we would build something where you would be a bit betraying this main character, Apollonia. So I needed to wait a little more and add an ending to an already, how can you say, people didn't really, because it was good. It was, if you just see it as a fiction, it could work, but it didn't in like real life. It didn't work, because it would be unfair, because people would leave the cinema not thinking about Apollonia's painting, but thinking only of Oksana. So do you get what I'm saying? It's a little bit delicate to say it, because it sounds, how can you say, and this was not something that was very much in like the editing room. So that was not something I could say or discuss, because it would be misunderstood, because she's not a filmmaker. And so we had to get that. And there I already had like a kind of very good rough cut, our cut 11, that managed to convince all our investors, and they were very happy. And then I said, but I need to shoot some more. And then everybody was like, oh my God, she's unstoppable. She's crazy. Producers, please take her on a leash. And then we made this ending, and I thought it would be like very not problematic because it was just an ending. But of course, then we started to do something, small things with the beginning also. And all of a sudden, the film just did not work anymore. And I had no idea what had happened. And it was just little big bits we worked with, but I don't know. And for so long we struggled and we struggled and we struggled. Then when we reached, I got more and more panicking because why wasn't this film as good as I had imagined? Like, why couldn't I get it, to be at the level it should? And then when we reached cut 30 or something, I was like, okay, no, we have to go. Let's see. What was it in this cut 11 that we had that, everybody liked and that we also liked? And then we went back and saw that I had made the cut too like dull, too much information, that there was a spontaneous thing in this cut 11. And then we went back to that. So it's where it opens with her cutting her hair. I had done something else before that. And yeah, and with this mustache, and it had a lightness and just a cute and interested pace, and felt light. So we so we went back to that and tried to analyze that, and then but adding the other ending.
So you always wanted to have a view, or after you had the baby and look at the footage and then you decide to have the voiceover, more like sort of reflection of your own feeling about female, about feminine, just being a woman, being a mother, and a life as an artist, reflecting on her life is going parallel in a way.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was what version? Version 30 or version 11 that you
No,
put
version 11 was that was where we put it. I kind of knew that I had to build the film because there's so much informations and so many cute stories, and I do love narration. And I have my previous films, I did more films during the time that I did this one, and that they have all been like really the one was a film called Venus, and it was like a 90 minutes monologue from different female perspectives, and the other was called Olmo and the Seagull, and that was like hybrid film, what you call, where it's part fiction, but it was also based on a woman's narration. My short film was a narrated, so it's also like I really love narration, but I had to be a more mature person really also in my life to be able to do it in this way. So yes. And what was your question? Sorry, I
Oh,
forgot.
that's great that you see yourself mature throughout the film, and it's nice to reflect back into the 13 years that your life changes, her life changes, and it's just life, living both female lives. That's wonderful. So I want to open the
Yes.
to the questions to the student. Please come.
Kira, come into the front row.
Yes, and introduce yourself.
Where's the, oh, hi.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing with us.
No, thank you for having me.
So far, we haven't finished the movie yet, but I've been very touched by also how you described that this is a film about a very specific and very extraordinary person and life circumstances, but these overarching themes of identity, language, what it means to be a woman, the importance of like artistic community and what that does to your own art and how you work, I think have all been things that have been resonating with me while watching this film.
Wow.
And I just wanted to ask, since you said that like you felt like you had to complete this film at some point, how afterwards now this has changed your relationship to filmmaking maybe, or the way that maybe you intend to immerse yourself in the subject matter for the next thing that you might create, or how the way you approached this film maybe differed from the other two films that you mentioned, in terms of how you put yourself into this, your emotions, your life as a person behind the camera, and what that did to your creative work?
Yeah, right. Wow. Yeah, that was a very intelligent question. Thank you for that. How can I answer that even? I think this film was very different from the other films that I did. I think I was the others were co-directions, so it was more so it was different. It was totally different approaches. So in a way, this was like, it's very strange because it did 3 other films in between, but in a way, this is my first film that I did like all the way through as the only, director there. I don't think I'm gonna do films like this one again. It was really also so connected to being young, I think, this way of doing it, and like a very restless energy I had, and an extreme ambition, and this lack of any role models of female role models of the female artists that I think also and kind of fueled through my own generations of painters who were like my great grandfather was a painter who had a story very similar to Apolonia. He was raised in a very poor area of Denmark, and then the people from the like castles who owned the land saw him and nursed him and nursed his talent, and saw it as their obligation to like bring this talent forward. So he became a professor at the art academy in Denmark when he was older, and that was the guy who painted the king. So this story about, of going from the bottom of society to the top of the society through arts and crafts, it's some kind of a, I don't know, maybe a mythical position in my family. And as a child, I listened to it, and then both my mother, she was also a painter, but she had me when she was 18, and then she kind of had to stop doing anything for 18 years, just taking care of me. And then she, began again after this break, and my grandfather's paintings are still in the ceiling. So I kind of had all of these inner questions to resolve. And when I then met Apolonia, I think she was like really mirroring like all of these things, and she had this ambition. And so there were so many questions there about, like, as also Apolonia, like the female body, this thing of feeling like trapped being a woman, because there was limitations in the world to being a woman, and that was like so frustrating. But at the same time, I am a woman, so so there was all of these things. And I think to me, filmmaking has also always been a way of trying to understand the world. And I think that will not change. I will still try to understand the world, but I think the themes will be a little bit different. But it's a very good question. You can say that I'm really figuring that out now, how to approach filmmaking again. And it feels like it's something you have to do all over in a new way, like every time, I guess. But I think now it's more, I have much more experience, so I have much more confidence than I also had. I was very stubborn, and I very thrived upon some people telling me, you cannot do this, then I was like, I am gonna prove you that I can do this. And that was like a very fueling kind of energy, but my energy is different now. Also, it has been really great to get this film out and have like this recognition from your peers. I mean, and have these discussions with extraordinary filmmakers who see the work, because I never really had that. Because the first film I didn't have really any money or economy to kind of travel with it, and I was busy doing my other film. And when that came out, I was sick, so I didn't. I mean, I was like at the hospital at the premiere of that other film. So I feel like it's, to me, it's very it's a chance to create with already having that confidence and not having to prove everybody. So it will change the way of the craft, I think. But yeah, so it's kind of existential, but thank you for asking. I mean, I don't even know if I can answer properly.
Thank you for such an open answer.
No, thank you.
Yeah, Lea, filmmaking is overcoming difficulties. Can you tell us a little bit about how you can deal? Because I think this is not a straightforward process, yeah, the filmmaking, especially if you take so much time to do this film. And we have young filmmakers maybe here in our class, and they are very interested in how you can deal with difficulties, because the ability to overcome difficulties, that makes you strong as a filmmaker. Can you give us a little insight of that, what happened in the 13 years of making the film, yeah, in terms of difficulties?
Yeah. Yes, I can. There were many difficulties. I mean, if we could start with, now we talked about some of the very like existential difficulties. Some of the other difficulties you could say was, for instance, why I use these models. That's also in the film, because I encountered this difficulty that the world as I felt it was not really the world that I shot. So whenever I returned to the editing room, I was looking for this magical theater, this magical place of creation. And all I had was just, okay, some people in front of a wall. Okay, some people in front of a staircase. Okay, like it just looks like a very worn down facility. So I had not, it was very hard to build this feeling that it was, because when we were there, there was like a very special mood and something very special. But in the sequences that I put together, when I encountered the editing, did not match at all what I had experienced. And that was kind of hard, because also the editors or the editor, and that was actually also a bit a problem there, that I can tell with difficulties, because it was the first editor I worked with was my very dear friend, extremely talented editor, and we couldn't make it work. And he had been so loyal. He had even worked without pay for some times, and we were supposed to finish the movie together, but we got stuck. We got to a place where our editing room was not flowing. It was not creative. It was more filled with like difficulties and arguments. That was really tough, because that was like, I thought that we were doing the very first edit, and then we had to admit to each other at one point that, okay, we are not going to finish it. And then I had to change editors, and that was awful. I thought that was very hard to do. So that was one of the problems, that we didn't bring the creative energy, and we were kind of not doing the work, the two of us. So we had to change the editors, the editor. And for me, that was very hard, because he was such a good friend and so talented, but I couldn't make it work. The two of us couldn't make it work. So I mean, now it's fine, and it's not, he's also well, he understands, so it's not that. He's very professional and cool, but it was still a hard thing. That was, yeah, because it's so, yeah. But anyway, so in the editing room, when I knew that there were some things I would really want to achieve in the film, but my material, when you just saw it, was so hard to explain and to build this magical theater, because the footage was not, it was really something that needed to be constructed.
Mhm.
And therefore I knew I had to add different elements. And this was also the first editor, he thought it was like a strange idea, right? And it's so difficult to convey an idea just by talking about it. So, and it was also a bit hard to do sketches to make it work, because it didn't really work until the models were exactly like they should be. So when I drew like a little drawing or something, it came closer, but it was also just looking very weird and strange. So that was like really, I had to trust my ideas very much. And actually that was the difference between the first editor, and then I ended up editing with my husband. And that was and he was more like, he put he thought it was a horrible idea also. And then he said like, okay, but anyway, I think it's a bad, I think it is a bad idea, but we're going to put a sign saying, okay, model of magical theater. And then, it's represented in the cut, and then, come back with this stuff. But it was really excellent, because it allowed it to be represented in the cut. Before it was just a little bit ignored. And yeah, like filmmakers always talk about stuff that they don't have on the timeline and so on. So that was difficult, that if your team thinks like around you that there are some things that you don't, she's just talking. I mean, that's very, you need to have this kind of respectful energy in the editing room. And I lost that for a second, and that actually, I think that made a crisis in the editing room, because we were not really able to get back from that, even though everybody wants the best for the film and is incredibly talented. But for a moment I kind of lost, we lost this dynamic. So so that was very much like a bit of a problem, especially since I spent all the funding for the edits. So I had to raise new funding. And then I met Andreas, as you saw, like in the film, and he edited different things. But at some point where I was really stuck, I just got home and I was like, you have to help me because I think my voice is getting lost in this project. I don't have the, I don't know why, but I don't feel that I can cut through. Do you say that in English? I don't know, but like this, and that was very difficult. But then I felt, because he was like, he listened, of course, and he said okay. And my producer thought it was a horrible idea in the beginning, because she was like, oh my God, a married couple, that's not good. She didn't want that. But then they saw the cut and what we did, and then everybody could see that it was like a good idea. But it was a little difficult, you can say.
Okay, we have one more question from the students. Jimmy, do you have a question? Candice? Is anybody? Because it's a very intimate topic, and we were talking in our appreciation class about personal films. Yeah. So come.
Hi, Lea.
Hello.
Hi. I've got one question, because I feel like I'm very touched by this movie. So there are so many themes combined in this movie, like feminism, and also how can we deal with art and like industry products, things like that. So there are so many themes you're talking about in this film. So I feel it's very complicated. So I'm wondering, like, do you have a very clear theme for the film in mind, like when you producing the movie, or like your idea of themes about this movie keep changing when you produce the movie? So I'm kind of wondering about this.
Yeah, I think that in the volcano shot where she was non-stop speaking for 12 minutes, I was hit by many of the themes of her life. So I did feel that there was a chronicle of that went back to, that got many more layers during the film. But no, I did not from the beginning say, this is how I imagine the film, and then I shot it like that. It was more that I was, by this volcano shot where she talked about all of these things of her past, of her mother and father and this place. It felt like a novel, you could say. It felt like something you would read in a novel. And it was very important to understand the layers of society. It was important to understand geography. It was important to understand like family trauma and the theme of expulsion and constantly moving and so on. So it was very rich, these themes. But I think to me, I moved very much on what I kind of experienced. And I think what I liked about the editing was that it was trying to stay true to what the camera was really looking for at the time. So in that way, the camera is changing because it's looking for different things during the course of the 13 years. So it is a complicated film because there are like many layers and many themes, and we try to combine them all. And there was one point, for instance, because I was very deeply moved also by this story of the immigration that I found was a very binding theme, that in this kitchen, in this theater, I kind of realized that, okay, this had been a place of refuge for many generations, and that Apollonia's mother was an immigrant from Poland, and that the young women who were there now, they were like first generation. Apollonia was like the second generation of immigration. And so I shot a conversation that's not in the film, where they really speak so much about all of these young women, about this story of immigration and how hard it is for the first generation that is immigrating. So for instance, that theme I knew was very important, but it had to be, we layered it up kind of. It was kind of like adding layers to the narration, because it was, I think I knew that when I was going forward, I would always film like, so one arch that was very clear to me was the story of a painter, because they go through all different, the same things, you know, you have to deal with being good enough, there's exams, you have to get into schools, then you have to get into the market, then you have to sell. So that's like the natural story of the painter. That I had, and that was, and then on top of that, there was the story of the past, the theme of the generations of artists that travels, that I added by putting the story of the grandfather. That solved a lot of things for me, to put in this little bit where I grew up at the countryside. I was posing as a model to my grandfather, and then I went searching for a story. So by adding this, that was not something that I had like, oh, I just rationally have to add this. No, it was like a big crisis in the editing room. Like editors telling me, okay, listen, we will take a long weekend and then you go home and then you write this bloody narration that you keep talking about and come back with something. And then I went back with this. I was sitting and it was horrible. Everything I wrote didn't work. And then I tried to like, okay, I have to come back with what is really, really important. And then I came back, then the only thing that I could write about was these paintings in the attic of my grandfather. And that was just what was like really there. And I gave it to the editors and they were like, okay, so you've been doing this film for 13 years about a woman and now you go home and write about something else. I think we're gonna call the producer. So it was, but then, you know, a little bit later, my husband was thinking, okay, we have to solve this problem that the natural story of the female painter. If we put it too early, that this is her quest too early in the film, as you would maybe naturally do in terms of dramaturgy, surgical, it would be easy, or it would be kind of obvious to start a bit earlier in the school where she's painting, because this is the character's project. But every time we did that, I don't know why, the film didn't work. It didn't work. So we kind of, by doing all possible edits, found out that around minute 20 was the right moment for her to go to the school and paint. That felt right, because then in the beginning of the film, you had this search between us, this energetic kind of youth and this playfulness between us. And if we put the project too early, that kind of disappeared. But we had more problems, because if we didn't have her project that early, now I say it in a sentence, but like really to feel it in a scene. If we didn't have that, the audience would start searching for like, okay, but then what is the story? It got lost. So it was really like trying to solve these problems. And then we thought about this thing of the grandfather. Okay, what if we put in this gaze so we understand what is the filmmaker doing there? Because you start wondering, so is she in love with this woman? Everybody was kind of thinking that, okay, okay, so it's a film about someone being in love with this girl. Okay. And then when we put in the story of the grandfather, all of a sudden there was an understanding to like, why is this girl kind of searching in these environments? It felt natural. So that was a very big discovery. And it didn't come at once. It came after trying to solve many of those things. And then we got a key sentence, which was also the kings and the queens. So it's also being inspired by her tarots, this thing of the cards and the decks. And then Apolonia is also someone who adds symbols to everything in her art. And I think I was inspired by that also. So by adding, for instance, these models, or by adding a story and the narration, we could build more on layers. But that was very much trial and error. So all the themes were some things that I had stored like intuitively, I felt were profound. And I think that from my kind of schooling, when I was in film school, much of the, how can I say, the pedagogics was to, if you encounter something that you feel is valuable, then lock it in a box and really treasure it, and think that it's okay if, I mean, to really try to keep that as long as you can through the whole way of the filmmaking, these feelings, these emotions, these ideas, so you can go back to them and make sure that as you go further and further into the process of filmmaking, that you can keep these initial things that you found profound, so it doesn't get lost in this long process of doing the film. So it was like kind of layering the stuff up like that, and being greedy also in the editing room, like as soon as something worked, and it was simple, then say, okay, but okay, then I have this, like, okay, now the structure of the artist works, but how about the past? How can the past enter in the film? And then it was obvious that that could be when she was, of course, discovering her own path. So because it's a biographical piece, there are many gifts in a biography, because the main person she's searching for it herself.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
very easy in a way. That I don't know if it answers, but
Yes, thank you so much for the answer. It helps me like figure out a lot.
no,
Lea,
thank you.
Lea, what a journey! What a journey today! What a journey of filmmaking! What a journey until to be selected as one of 15 of the best documentaries worldwide. Congratulations from
Thank
all
you
of
so much.
us. Fingers keeping crossed, yeah, and I'm sure that you will be selected as one of the 5 nominees. And then, yeah, we try everything to support you, yeah,
Thank you so
and
much.
yeah, good luck for the
Thank
next project, Lea, and
Thank you so much.
yeah, stay healthy and keep your strength, yeah.
Yes, I will. I will.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
again.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good
luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You want to see
Oh,
the
New York
skyline?
City.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
You see?
You staying in Midtown or where you staying?
Oh, sorry. I think if I do like this. No. Can you see more?
Yes.
Yeah.
wow.
I'm staying in so beautiful. I don't want to leave.
Oh.
It's I'm staying in Williamsburg in
Good.
Danish filmmaker called Elvira, who's lending me her apartment, which is, I think, the coolest apartment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you do it one more time with the view, please?
Yes, I just turn off the lights, then you can
Wow.
see. Can you see?
Yes. Great.
Super.
So
Super.
beautiful.
So, and greetings again to your husband. He did a great job as an editor. Yeah. So,
Thank you so much.
and to handle this many layers in your film, I know what it, and I think we know what it means, and it is a lot of work, and it works. And it's touching, is everything, is a lot of meanings. The film has a lot of meanings, and first of all, we can feel you had a trusted relationship to your main protagonist, and you had a close bond to her, and we wish both of you, yeah, also for Apolonia, send her greetings, yeah, for her career, for her life. So it was a
Thank you.
pleasure to have you here in town again, yeah, and you are more than welcome with your next project, yeah, Lea.
Thank you so much.
Good luck. Good
Thank you
luck.
so much. It was a pleasure, and I send my greetings from Apple too.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.